there all, it's Dr. Rate. This week in my child psychology class, we are talking about the birth experience and also the experience of the first couple of months of baby being born. And I started thinking about how important it is for us as students of psychology to recognize that there are many things in this world that we have no experience with. And rather than try to take our expectation of what the experience should be and kind of put it onto people, that we should instead become very good at closing our mouth and listening. So if someone chooses to give us information about what their experience is like, then our role in that situation is to close your mouth and to listen. Um, and ask questions to get more information or more understanding if it's appropriate. But hearing the voices of people who have experienced things that we have not is essential in terms of trying to understand the psychology of humans in general. And really, as we're doing that, what we're doing is qualitative research. We're listening to the voices, the lived experiences of other people, and we are learning from their experiences and how they felt in that experience. So as I was thinking about people's experiences with childbirth and also sometimes with adoption, surrogacy, becoming a new parent, stillbirth, miscarriage, all of those things are potential outcomes of this chapter that we're talking about, if you think about it. And as a human, as a psychologist, as a woman, there are many of those things that I have never had experience with. And I was actually reading a website this week that was talking about using poetry and writing in terms of understanding others' perspectives when teaching. And I was like, let's do that. Let's take a look at some poetry and writing relating to the experience of becoming a parent, but also many other experiences that could be related to that, such as the experience of being a surrogate, the experience of adopting a child, the experience of stillborn, having a stillborn baby, the experience of having a miscarriage. And so in this video, what I'm going to do is give you some of the examples that I found online relating to these concepts. So first, we want to take a look at some poetry written by parents and new parents. So I am going to kind of look at my screen and read some things to you, but also I will share the links for what I am reading in the about section of this video. So if we look at like the themes of parenting relating to, or sorry, poetry relating to new parenting, we see a lot of discussion of this intense feeling of love and overwhelming and fierce nature of this love for a new child. This feeling of awe of we created this, of this wonder. You've got this tiny thing, and now it's your job to take care of it, right? There's a lot of discussion of changes. So, for example, new routines with a newborn child. We see a lot of themes of, changes in sleep habits, which influences exhaustion. So exhaustion, sleeplessness, physical and mental toll that caring for a baby can have or create. a transformation. So the changes that a person undergoes as they become a parent, and really it's like this kind of identity change as you become, as you realize more and more that you are responsible for the life of someone else. And then there's also in a lot of the poetry, as children get older, this idea of the urgency of time. So it's kind of bittersweet feeling that children grow up too quickly. So one of the poems that we can look at about parenting was from one of my favorite um, writers when I was in college, Sylvia Plath. She wrote something called Morning Song, which was about parenting and the experiences of parenting. She wrote, Love set you going like a fat gold watch. The midwife slapped your foot soles, and your bawled cry took its place among the elements. Our voices echo, magnifying your arrival. New statue. In the drafty museum, your nakedness shadows our safety. We stand around blankly as walls. I'm no more your mother than the cloud that distills a mirror to reflect its own slow effacement at the wind's hand. All night your moth breath flickers among the flat pink roses. I wake to listen. A far sea moves in my ear. One cry, and I stumble from bed, cow-heavy and floral in my Victorian nightgown. Your mouth opens, clean as a cat's. The window square whitens and swallows its dull stars, and now you try your handful of notes. The clear vowels rise like balloons. So that was from the collected poems of Sylvia Plath. Another thing that we can look at is poetry um, written by men, written by dads about fatherhood. Um, Paul Dickinson in 2011 wrote something called Fatherhood is Hope. We know the world is a crazy place and that it's easy to give up, throw in the towel. The idealism of youth gives way to the cynicism of middle age when we realize that despite our best efforts, change is very difficult. To be a parent, and in particular to be a father, why bother? Some say fatherhood is driven by ego, the child providing the ultimate selfish representation of oneself. Others say driven by fear, the fear of mortality, and the unconscious and genetic need to propagate and maintain our lineage, our species, our world. While both can be true, I believe the best manifestation of fatherhood is driven by tikkun olam, a Jewish concept that we have, an obligation to better the world, to move it to a better state than currently exists. We do what we can when on this earth to love our family, friends, and be as righteous as this world will allow. Our genetic legacy is not nearly as important as our obligation to pass on what we know, have learned, have experienced, and enable our children to carry the mission to an always higher level. No matter what our belief in the afterlife and what the future may hold, we are here now in this life, and as long as we move the ball further and further in the right direction, there can be hope. Truly, being a father, a good father, enables hope. Maybe that is enough. We can also take a look at themes of parenthood from people who are adopting. So we want to think about all of the different ways that people go about having children, becoming parents. And so we can look at the poem. It's called Legacy of an Adopted Child, and the author is unknown. Once there were two women who never knew each other. One you do not remember, the other you call mother. Two different lives shaped to make yours. One became your guiding star, the other became your sun. The first gave you life, the second taught you to live in it. The first gave you a need for love, and the second was there to give it. One gave you a nationality, the other gave you a name. One gave you the seed of talent, the other gave you an aim. One gave you emotions, the other calmed your fears. One saw your first sweet smile, the other dried your tears. One gave you up, that's all she could do. The other prayed for a child, and God led her straight to you. Now you ask through all your tears the age, old questions through the years, heredity or environment, which are you a product of? Neither, my darling, neither, just two different kinds of love. We can also look at um, poetry related to some of the potentially negative outcomes of pregnancy. So we can talk about um, poetry related to miscarriage, poetry related to stillbirth. And, as a psychologist, I would think that if the loss is similar in that people are experiencing a loss of an expected child or a wanted child. But because of where the loss occurs in the pregnancy, that experience may be very different. So if we take a look at poems related to stillbirth, we can look at the Stillborn Elegy by Tracy Brimmel. We can't remember her name, but we remember where we buried her. In a blanket the color of a sky that refuses birds. The illiterate owls interrogate us from the trees, and we answer, we don't know. Maybe we named her Dolores for our grandmother, meaning sadness, meaning the mild kisses of a priest. Maybe we called her Ruth after the missionary who gave us a rifle and counterfeit wine. We blindfolded our sister and tied her hands because she grew up the fence looking for the rabid fox we nailed to a post. Katydid sang with the insistent summer urge, and the cavalier moon grew more slender. In the coyote hour we offered benedictions for a child we may have named Aja, meaning newborn, meaning the stillness that entered us, which is the stillness inside the burnt piano, which is also the woman we untie, who is the mother of stillness. We can also think about poems relating to surrogacy. So with surrogacy, we're talking about one person who is carrying a child to term for someone else or for another couple. And so some of the themes related to surrogacy look at, surrogates' complex emotions and their physical journey. Um, we can look at in these types of poems the intended parent's hopes and the nature of the bond between the surrogate and the intended parents. So this is called the Monologue of a Surrogate Mother. Um, and this is by Sofiul Azam. Let's see. The baby born today is not mine. Or is it? This maternity is only for banknotes, more of which I often get than I bargained for. The feel of someone else's fetus growing tiny limbs over nauseating months, and the baby's restless kicks inside my womb are all over in a flash. In the hospital, while trying to latch the baby onto my nipple, I felt my tears as if asking for the green light. My clients say such sentiments don't suit us. They come like locusts year after year. No, the locusts leave crops fully damaged, but they don't. They rather leave me a few more banknotes as a goodwill gesture, and then the very next year I might have to do it again, though a bit more hesitantly. My life's never been sweet. My real kids wonder why my belly swells like high tide and subsides like water's retreat. They don't know where their siblings go. Their questions are breakers on the beach. My husband, either lying face down or sitting up with amputated legs over there, is always afraid I might dump him one day. I still relive the first sight of his bloodied legs lying separate on the rail tracks. Whatever, they just needed food on the table. No, not the table. for this piece of furniture seems a luxury, even in my wild imagination. Unlike a hooker, I never get up close with my clients. There's no question of wrapping my legs around them. I lease my womb for their test tube fetuses. I am a queen of the womb. But last year, I was on the verge of being dead at childbirth. Fortunately, doctors didn't let it happen. Not for my sake, but for the baby I was supposed to deliver to my rich client. No, I still remain poor. Like a dog giving birth to puppies on a busy street corner? No, I am more dignified than a dog living on leftovers. I am the human mother. The only thing I get weirdly sad about is that I never had the chance to be called mother by those babies that I had given birth to. So we see lots of different perspectives on the birth experience, on the first couple of months of experience of being a parent, being an adoptive parent. Um, and so I thought I would share that with you this week, and I hope you found it interesting.